Welcome to the IELTS Success Summit YouTube channel. And in this video, I'm going to give you a short lesson on how to answer short answer questions in the reading section of the IELTS exam. And there's a very simple strategy for answering these types of questions. Not easy, but simple. And with practice, I'm sure you can master and have a good success rate with these types of questions. So when it comes to short answer questions, there's a couple of key tips and some things to know. These questions will come in order in the text, in the same order you find them in the questions, and your answers will be words from the text. So no spelling concerns or issues with that. You'll be copying words directly from the text. And as usual, in the reading section, we do want to be aware of synonyms and paraphrases because the clues, the words that are key clues in the questions may be different words in the passage, but the answers that you choose will be directly from the passage. So we always want to be aware of synonyms and paraphrases when we're looking at questions from the reading section. And so, as usual, we always begin with carefully reading the instructions. You know, if you pay attention to the instructions throughout the IELTS exam, it's such an important thing because in every section of the IELTS exam, no matter what section it is, what question type it is, a key component of your score is task achievement. And if you always want to be very clear that you're accomplishing the task that's required, be sure to read the instructions carefully and mark the instructions so that you are well aware and always have in the top of your mind that you know exactly the task that you are trying to achieve. And in this case, the instructions are very clear, but very important that in this set of questions, you may use no more than 3 words or a number, and that these words do come directly from the text. You know, in the reading section, you don't have to have any prior knowledge of the topics of the passage that you're dealing with. A matter of fact, it could be more dangerous if you do have prior knowledge, because if you have prior knowledge, you may be tempted to try and answer the questions in your own words. But it's so important to realize that your task is to choose words from the text. So you don't need any prior knowledge or understanding. You're simply identifying key information and choosing words from the text. So make sure you carefully read those instructions, underline them so there's no second guessing, no getting halfway through a set of questions and wondering if you're doing them correctly and second guessing yourself. You've read the instructions and you know exactly what you're doing throughout the set of questions. And then we begin with our keyword strategy. When we identify keywords, we're always identifying names, proper names of people and places, dates, and times are so important. We want to be aware of what type of word we're using, whether we're looking for a noun or a verb, or whether we're looking for comparisons. So adjectives and adverbs are very important keywords. But in this case, we're looking for the keywords that are specific to finding the answer we need. And it's a short answer, again, 3 words or less for these questions. So we want to identify clearly the answer, that is the type of word that is going to give us the specific answer to our question. So as we underline keywords in these questions, we're looking for, number 1, we're looking for a comparison. So we may be looking for helpful comparative words. And number 2, we're looking for a specific type of rhino. So this means that there are going to be different types of rhinos mentioned in the passage, but we're only looking for a specific type of rhino. And in number 3, we're going to be looking for a number. This is why it's so important to underline numbers when we are skimming a passage. We're looking for a percentage, and we're also looking for a date. So this also explains why dates and times are so important to mark as part of our key words when we're skimming through a passage. And then our last question, we're looking for the answer to how. How have criminals improved? So it's very important to look at the type of question. So when we're looking for the answer to what or which, there's a good chance that we're looking for a specific fact, and this will probably be a noun. And if we're looking for the answer to how, we're looking for the answer to some kind of process, and this could possibly be a verb. So it's just good to be aware of the clues that we find in the questions. And in the reading section, before we even take a look at the passage, and you can see these are questions 1 to 4, so they tell us it's the first set of questions as we approach the passage, but we always begin with the first set of questions first. And as we've looked at these questions, and we haven't even taken a look at the passage yet, we still have a good idea of what the passage is going to be about. So when we do go to the passage, it's not going to seem completely strange to us. We're going to already have a little familiarity with it. And then we go and we use our skimming technique to identify keywords in the passage. And for the purposes of this lesson, we're only looking at small portions of the passage at a time. But when you've looked at the first set of questions and then you go to skim the passage, you do the entire passage at once. At this point, when you're skimming the passage for the first time, you're not looking necessarily for the answers to the questions. What you're doing is you're underlining key information that will help you for every question type that you're going to face for this passage. So you're going to use your keyword strategy. You're going to read, when you skim, you're going to read every word as quickly as possible, not for understanding, not to remember everything, but to underline the keywords that will help you identify the key information to answer the questions. And then each time following that you go through the passage, you're only scanning. So the difference between skimming and scanning is this. You skim the passage once and only once. And you read every word as quickly as possible and underline all the keywords that are going to help you identify the information you need, no matter which question type you face throughout the passage. And then as you go and look for the answers for individual questions, you're only scanning. And scanning means you're only looking at the words that you've underlined and marked as being important information. So you skim the passage once, and then you scan the words that you've marked during your skimming process as you answer each individual question. So we're just looking at this portion of the passage, which contains answers that we're looking for the questions. And we always underline the title of the passage, the endangered African rhino. We have some noun and adjective combinations, armored giant. We have a comparison, like a tank. We have a number, which is millions. And we have underlined poaching because we know that poaching is a criminal activity. And we did have a question about criminals as we looked through our questions. And that's an important thing to realize when you're doing keywords and skimming your passage. And the other reason that we look at the questions first. As well as keywords, you also want to underline any synonyms or words that you've identified in the questions as being a good clue. We have another noun, adjective, noun combination, huge threats. And we know that we're looking for different types of rhinos. So we see white and black rhinos. So we have African rhinos, we have black and white rhinos, we have different types. And we know that this is the kind of information that we're looking for, having looked at the questions first. So let's take a look at number one. What is the African rhinoceros compared to? So we're looking for a comparison, and we've clearly identified that in the first line of this passage. The first comparison we see is like a tank on legs. So that is easily identified as the correct line. Now remember, we're allowed to use up to 3 words. And sometimes there's different answers that are acceptable. In this case, you could say a tank, or you could just say tank on legs. Either option is correct as long as you're taking the words directly from the text. Let's go to the next question. So we're at another part of the passage, and this time it's talking about white rhinos. So we always want to identify the types of rhinos we're talking about. We have another adjective noun combination, mixed fortunes. Here we have a reference to northern white and rhinos, and then we have southern white rhinos, and we have a noun adjective combination, success story. And then we have some important numbers and dates. Remember, we always underline numbers and dates when we're skimming a passage. So let's look for the answer to our second question. We're looking for a type of rhino that fell in number. You can see the advantage of always marking numbers to below 100. And in this case, we also have a synonym. Instead of below, in our passage, it says under 100. So now we clearly have the answer to our second question, and that's the southern white rhino. Now, again, you could you could use all 3 words and say southern white rhino. But if you just chose 2 and put southern white, that would also be acceptable. So let's go on to the next question. Okay, we're looking at another portion of the passage which we've skimmed. We've identified another type of rhino, black rhino. We see a superlative adjective. Superlative adjectives are so important. We're not looking for any period of time. We're not looking for the best period of time. We're looking for the worst period. And again, we have dates, 1970 to 92. We have a good number that we need to be aware of, 96. And we have wide scale poaching. Wide scale is another adjective noun combination. And again, the number 5,000. So you can see how these types of keywords are going to be so important in helping us identify the right information. So what percentage of black rhinos had been illegally killed by 1992? So we have that time period between that starts in 1970 and ends in 1992. and it's easily identified as 96%. And that's our answer. So you could just put 96. If you put the percent sign in, that's okay too. And remember, from our instructions, we can use 3 words and or a number. So if you have a number, you don't have to write it out. You just have to put 96 or 96%. And we have one more question to look at. And we're going to underline poaching because we know that poaching is a synonym for criminal activity. Rhino horn, huge threat. So we're looking at another adjective noun combination. Better equipped. Now, we didn't have the word better equipped, but we did have the word improved in our question. So again, that's where synonyms are important to be aware of. And then we have illegal wildlife trade, which also is another synonym for criminal activity. So let's take a look at our question. How have criminals improved their success? And the answer clearly is increasingly better equipped. Remember, you're allowed to use 3 words. So if you want to put increasingly better equipped, you can do that, or you can just put better equipped, and either answer is suitable. Well, I hope you found this lesson helpful. If you're looking for more information about skimming or scanning or the keyword strategy, be sure to check out a video on my YouTube channel. You'll find one about skimming and scanning. You'll also find a lesson about the reading section overview, and that has a good description of the keyword strategy. And so I would encourage you to subscribe to this channel for lots more valuable lessons about the IELTS exam, whether it's listening, speaking, writing, and even more specific information about the reading section. So I want to wish you all the best on your journey as you prepare for the IELTS exam.